أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. In a quick haste, we have only 15 minutes today, so very quickly. كتبته. Yeah, so very quickly, we want to visit the verse Allahu nuru samawati wal ard. When we are looking at these verses in the chapter of Nur or light in the Quran, it says that Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. And it continues, it's a very lengthy verse, but the beginning nonetheless is that Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. Now, we have several problems with saying that Allah is the light of such and such. First of all, in the narrations it says, لا يعلم ما هو ولا أين هو ولا كيف هو إلا هو. In the authentic hadiths, it says that nobody knows what Allah is and how is He or where is He or whatever have you, all of these attributes, nobody knows them. And so if no one knows them, this means that when you say that the Quran is suggesting that Allah is a light, then the Quran is telling us that it knows what Allah is and is giving us an image. So that is the first issue. The second issue, when we say that Allah is a light, we know that light has its own hurdles and obstacles. So if there is a light and if I put a book or a barrier in front of it, it will not go through. So it is giving a metaphor of Allah with something that is very weak. That is another thing. And thirdly, another issue when it comes to this verse, it says, the light of the heavens and the earth, which suggests that Allah is in the heaven and in the earth so that He would give them light. So to answer all three at once, we want to know, what does Allahu nuru samawati wal ard mean? It means very, very quickly, because of course, before 2 days, we have looked into the issue of metaphorism in the Quran and the attributes of Allah. And so when we say that Allah is generous, it is not the same as our generosity at all. When we say that Allah is knowledgeable, He has ilm, alim or alim, He is not alim like we are alim. You could say that X person is alim, Y person is alim. But it means that that person was ignorant but then gained knowledge through his senses or through logic. One of the two doorsteps to information. But when you say that Allah is knowledgeable, He created the thing that He knows Himself, and His knowledge of it is the same thing in its own existence. So Allah knows things before He creates them, and after He creates them with their own existence that stems from His order. So His knowledge is all engulfing, all covering. Our knowledge is weak and limited by shades and limitations only. Anyhow, so similarly, when we say that Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth, we do not mean that Allah is physically made out of light so that all of these problems will stem. No. What we mean is a metaphor, because light exposes things so that you could see and exposes itself. So دل على ذاته بذاته, as if Allah is pointing to Himself with Himself. He has given evidence to Himself by His own existence. So this is light also. So if there wasn't a light into a room and then you switch the light on, the light will show you itself and show you everything else. مظهر لنفسه ولغيره. So that is the first area of that metaphor. The second thing is that light is, per our understanding, the fastest thing in the universe, the most powerful, the most unique, and also the one that we know the least about almost. Because light, even though we could see it, and even though it is materialistic to an extent, it is pure energy. And from energy, everything benefits. So there is also a physical and a chemistry or a chemical connection that shows us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sustains everything like energy sustains everything that is living. And indeed, things that are not living, they do need energy also. Number 3, when Allah mentions that He is the light of the heavens and the earth, it is also giving us the aspect of consistency. Allah is consistent, Allah is one. There isn't one God for the heavens and one God for the earth. No, God is one for everything that He has created. There is a narration that mentions regarding one of the prophets. It wasn't regarding Ahlul Bayt, it was on behalf of one of the prophets. It shows, as I remember, that every creature believes that God looks like him. And this is why when you look into Christianity and look into Judaism, after they have been twisted, and also some sections of Islam, they do believe that God is like us, He has a body. We say that that is impossible for several reasons. One reason of that is that if we say that God is made out of body parts, then every body part will at least need the other, which would mean that Allah needs something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of His names and attributes is Al-Ghani, the rich, which means He doesn't need anything. So if He needs even parts of Himself, that is a need, which is also impossible. So in the Quran, there is more than meets the eye. If you read it very quickly, the verse, and you try to understand it, you would see that sometimes the first understanding of the verse may not be correct, and you have to go into depths. And Ali ibn Abi Talib has mentioned before in one of the narrations, إِنَّ هَذَا الدِّينَ مَتِينٌ فَأَوْغِلْ فِيهِ بِرَفْقٍ. This religion is vast and deep, so tread lightly. Don't dive suddenly and then find yourself lost. So within the Quran, there is a level which everyone understands. When anyone reads Allahu Nuru Samawati wal Ard, he understands that this verse refers to Allah having control above everything. But the depth after that with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, when you look at this verse and the full verse, because it's very long, you see that in every section of it, it is referring to one of the ma'sumin. That is for our narrations, the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So what Allah is saying in that verse per Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, He is saying that I am the knowledge, I am the way, I am the survival. If you hold on to me, you will win. And also I am giving you wasa'at. I am giving you people in the middle that are intermediaries that will be the connection between me and you. And then He mentions them one by one. So the Quran, when it tells us something, let us not believe in it in the most mundane and superficial level, because sometimes even that understanding may be wrong. Because if we understand that Allah is actual light, we have fallen into kufr or heathenship without us knowing. We must first look at Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and what they're saying regarding this, so that we could understand it better. So all in all, what we've benefited from this verse or verses, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only the sustainer of the worlds and the creator and the guider, but He has also given us people that we may use as guidance towards His way. Which leads us to the issue of shafa'ah, which we will be talking about inshallah in the coming days. Shafa'ah refers to when Allah puts people that He allows you to get closer to Him by them. Not without Him, but with Him. So Allah opened this route for us. Another thing that we learned from this verse is that when we are talking about anything that is giving attributes or metaphors regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we must take it all with a pinch of salt. In the sense, not looking literally at it, but looking at the meanings it's trying to cast out, the connotations and denotations of this verse that is, or let's say attribute that is given to Allah. So all in all, the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are all beautiful, and wherever you find a mentioning of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His attributes, then it is never what meets the eye. It is always deeper and greater. خلص جاوبت الأذان؟ باقي 4 دقائق. So that is the most important thing to learn from this verse. There is another lesson that we could learn from this verse also. By visiting other places in the Quran in which nur or light is mentioned. For example, فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجْعَلِ اللَّهُ لَهُ نُورًا فَمَا لَهُ مِن نُور. Whoever God does not give him a light, then he does not have a light. Which means whoever Allah does not give guidance to, then that person will not be guided. So now we ask a question. If Allah is the light, is the guidance, and He does not give the guidance per the first verse, and per the second verse, He doesn't give this guidance to everyone, only the people He wants. Doesn't that mean that God is hiding from the people that He wants to guide? Because He doesn't give the permission for everyone to get to know His light? The answer is yes. There are conditions. Even if you see the truth with your own eyes, you may not believe in it. So that you would believe, you would need to fulfill the conditions. And these conditions are what Allah is referring to, that if God does not give you light, you will not get your guidance. So maybe Allah is giving you all of the evidence regarding His presence in this world and thereafter and everywhere. But you, for example, have a lack, let's say, in one of the conditions that would allow your heart to submit, then this means that Allah did not give you light. It doesn't mean that Allah is actively preventing you, no. But it means that you have done things that have prevented you from opening your eyes correctly so that you would know. And in several places in Surah Al-Baqarah, it mentions that when they are faced with their truth, they take their clothes and cover their eyes. استغشوا ثيابهم. Or في آذانهم وقر, that their ears are pierced as if they cannot hear anything. Or جعلوا أصابعهم في آذانهم. They put their fingers into their ears, showing that people do in many times prevent themselves from getting the knowledge. So it is not Allah preventing people from knowing Him, it is people with their own sin preventing themselves, and because of that sin, Allah has prevented them. So it is self-inflicted rather than God-inflicted. Allah would never prevent us from knowledge unless we are not worthy and unless we are doing sin to prevent us from gaining that. So anyway, this is when it comes to this verse. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us to His light in this world and in thereafter. وصلى الله على محمد وآله. اللهم صل على محمد. ها صوته ايش؟ وآل محمد. ها صوته كان شي خربان.